Before we begin, please click the like button and comment Amen to help my channel. I really appreciate it. Something sinister is pretending to be me. This is a continuation of my previous entry, titled, Something Sinister is Pretending to Be My Cat. So if you haven't listened to that already, please do so what I'm about to share makes more sense. I've pinned the link to it in the comments. I should not be alive to write this. My last update was removed from Reddit because honestly, nothing extraordinary happened in it. It's just a typical account of me slowly losing my mind. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. My neighbors, the police, my husband, everyone. And I know that I look crazy, but I also know I'm not. 2 weeks ago, I started having nightmares. I have been dreaming that I'm stuck in the mud. I am deep in the ground, somewhere no one can hear me. I rake my nails into the wet dirt and try to claw my way to freedom, but I never seem to reach the surface. Am I even digging in the right direction? Or am I digging myself further down? As I scream, my voice begins to thicken and gurgle. The wet mud chokes me until I wake up. When I do wake up, I'm almost never where I fell asleep. Most times I find myself laying on the couch in the living room with the curtains wide open. Because of these occurrences, I no longer sleep at night. I come home from work and pass out in bed with my husband until he gets up for work. Then I move myself into the bathroom for the night with my dog and try my best to stay awake. I'm afraid that if I pass out in the tub, I will wake up downstairs when that thing is back outside. My dog isn't acting like herself. She hates going outside alone. She won't go on walks anymore. She follows me so closely throughout the house, I can't tell if she is afraid for herself or for me. Every night we go into the bathtub to sit while Jake is away at work. Every night we hear the banging, the dragging, the voice that mimics mine over and over. We hear the meows that are not coming from a real cat. Every night she is with me while this thing tortures us. During the day, we hear heavy creaking coming from beneath the floorboards. Jake says the house is old and shifting, but it sounds heavier than that. It sounds like dragging, and Bella shakes like a leaf every time it starts up again. A bit more recently, I found a hole on the side of my house. It is dug deep and wide and seems to tunnel all the way underneath the foundation. It's kind of huge, big enough to fit a person or something pretending to be one. Jake, of course, thinks Bella dug it, but she doesn't go outside anymore. Neither of us really do. Anyway, I'm writing this now because 3 days ago, everything blew up. Jake and I were invited last month to our neighbor's daughter's birthday party. Gabby Collins was turning 7 on Saturday, and I thought it would be nice to make her some cookies in lieu of a present. The distance between houses on this road is about 1/4 of a mile, so Jake and I drove over there instead of walking in the heat. Everyone was in the backyard, so we just walked around the house. Martha Collins was at the head of a long table, covered in different picnic foods. Her husband was grilling something that smelled delicious, and all the kids were running about the backyard screaming. I walked up to the table to place down the cookies and say hello to her, but her face fell the moment she saw me. "Hey, sorry if we're late, Get out!" she said abruptly. I was shocked and confused. "What?" "Leave," she told me firmly. "I don't know what you think you've been doing these past few nights, but it's not funny." I had no idea what this woman was talking about. Her posture suggested she was both terrified and angry at the same time. Jake tried to interrupt her. What are you talking about? Your wife has been stalking the outside of our house at night, ripping up our flower beds and screaming. She snapped back at him. At this point, people at this party were starting to look at us in confusion. I could feel the embarrassment turning my face red.
Martha, I really don't know.
If you ever show up at our house again, day or night, I'm going to call the police. You are not welcome here. Now get the fuck off my property before I make a scene. Having no idea what else to do, Jake and I left before she made good on her word. What the fuck was that woman talking about? He asked once we got in the car. I didn't answer him. I just clutched at the plate of cookies and stared at the muddy handprint on the side window of the Collins house. When we got home, we had the biggest fight of our entire relationship. If you're not the one doing it, why is Martha so sure it was you? My husband challenged me. Jacob, we have a Ring camera pointed at our front door. Wouldn't you be able to see me leaving at night to harass the neighbors? We don't have one pointed at our back door, he told me. I slammed my hands on the kitchen counter. Why don't you believe me? How could I? He said. You have been telling me there's a monster under the house this past week. Now the neighbors are complaining that you're harassing them? You need help, Kara. The only thing I need is for my husband to trust me. I couldn't hold back the tears. Jake stood in the doorway of the kitchen for a moment before turning to leave. I love you, Kara, he told me, but I can't be here right now. I'm sorry. Jake left that night to go stay at his brother's house. I sobbed by myself for hours. Never in our entire relationship had we fought so badly. Never had either of us stayed at other places for the night. I laid in our bed and let Bella wrap herself around my feet while I cried myself to sleep. I was still laying in our bed when I woke to pounding at the door. Kara. I could hear Jake's voice calling my name from outside between his knocks. I'm sorry. I threw the covers off me and ran down the hall to the stairs. He had come back to apologize. He didn't want this fight any more than I did. He must have missed me as much as I missed him, and he was here to reconcile. Something stopped me short, just a few paces from the front door. I stared at the door in front of me, listening to the knocking and pleading voice on the other side. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread building up in my stomach. Something about this situation was wrong. He knocked on the door again. His voice was thick with sorrow and tears. Kara. Jake had work tonight, I realized. And even if he had called off to come talk things out with me, why was he knocking? My husband had a key. Eyes on the door, I reached down into my pocket and pulled out my phone to check the time. The clock read 2:12 a.m. I stepped backward as the knocking continued. Kara, I can't do this anymore. The voice on the other side of the door sounded wetter now, thicker. The knocking got more forceful. Kara. With each passing second, the voice twisted into something less like my husband's. Kara. You are not my husband, I told the thing outside my door. You are not coming in. Bang! The creature slapped at the door like it had against my window so many nights ago. Bang, bang, bang! There's a monster under the house. Jake's voice gurgled at me. Bang! Monster, monster, monster. Bang, 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 bang. My door pounded with such a ferocity that I could hear the wood frame begin to splinter. I turned and ran up the stairs for the bathroom. I locked the bathroom door behind me and sank to the floor. I could still hear that wretched, wet voice screaming my name. It had pretended to be Jacob, but why? I couldn't focus on that. The floor was vibrating beneath me at the force of the beating my house was taking. It sounded like the thing was slamming its entire body into the door over and over again. I thanked God the door was locked before I passed out in our bedroom. The bedroom. Where was Bella? I began to panic. She hadn't followed me down the stairs to answer the door, and she wasn't in our bathroom with me. She must have still been laying in our bed. The slamming abruptly stopped. The house was filled with an eerie quiet. In the silence, I thought I heard my dog whimper. Swallowing my fear, I unlocked the bathroom door. The hallway was absolutely fucking freezing. I hadn't noticed that before. Maybe in my rush to get down and then back up the stairs, I had simply ignored it? I scanned the hallway cautiously, my head the only part of my body outside the bathroom door. I was ready to duck back inside and relock it the moment I saw anything amiss. Then I saw what was actually out of place. The window at the end of the hallway by the stairs was open. How the fuck did that get opened? Before I could even think to run forward and close it, I heard a bone-chilling sound come from outside. Meow. I turned and fucking sprinted toward the bedroom. I could hear glass shatter and something heavy come crashing onto the floor behind me. It bounded down the hall after me, slamming into the door just a second after I shut and locked it. I threw myself onto the ground and crawled beneath our bed. That's where I found Bella. She was shaking as badly as I was. Kira. The voice cooed at me. There's a monster under the house. A sound like long nails dragged from the top of the door all the way down to the floor. The knob jiggled. I love you, Kara. Tears streamed down my face as I dialed the phone. The operator could barely ask what my emergency was before I was screaming my name and address at her. There is something inside my fucking house, I told her frantically. I'm hiding under the bed. Come before they get inside. Then I hung up the phone. The door rattled in its hinges, splintering the frame the same way the front door was before the creature had found its way inside through my window. I didn't understand why it was even open. Had I opened it? Had Jake? Was it possible that I had done so in my sleep, just like I had feared I would? The gurgling voice outside my door changed. Now it was a mixture between two voices, my husband's and mine. Something is inside my house, it told me smugly. I'm hiding under the bed. Then it was only my voice. Go away. It switched back and forth between octaves that way, repeating phrases it had heard either of us say to each other. It seemed to enjoy repeating things that Jake had said to me during our fight. It used my voice to beg him to stay, and his voice to tell me he had to leave. I could do nothing but lay there and sob. I knew it was all over. This door wouldn't hold forever. It would probably only last a few more minutes. Then everything went completely quiet. The rattling stopped. The voices ceased to taunt me. All I heard was the heavy sound of it dragging itself away. Then the cops burst into my bedroom. As it turns out, the police were just next door when I called 911. Martha Collins had called about 45 minutes before I did, claiming I was outside her house again. Then they got a call from me and simply headed over. They were skeptical of my story, but my Ring camera showed me inside my house at the same time I was said to be in her yard. To be exact, the same minute she called the police, I was standing in front of my front door about to let in Jake. I don't think the police believe what happened to me. They said there's no real way someone could break into my second-story window without a way up to it. The paneling on my house is completely flat, and there's no signs of a ladder being used in the mud below. But they can't explain the way the window is broken, with the glass coming inwards and not out. They can't explain the muddy mess tracked down my hallway, and they have no idea what to make of the long scratches carved into the wood of my bedroom door. I can't explain a lot of it either. I can't explain why my Ring camera managed to catch video of me at the door but no sound. I can't explain why my hall window was open in the first place. I can't understand why it chose to harass my neighbors. I don't know where it came from, how it found me, or why it has latched on to me. I don't know how I will explain this all to my husband, who's already questioning my mental state. But most of all, I can't begin to fathom why that thing didn't kill me that night. All I know for certain is that it will be back. It always comes back.
Aha! You survived the story. Think you can handle how deep, dark, and disturbing the rabbit hole goes? Click on the playlist and let me know in the comments where your breaking point is.